Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to check out more of Overly Sarcastic Productions' Miscellaneous Myths, starting with Momotaro, and we're going to just see how far it goes, because there's a huge playlist of a bunch of really short one-offs, and I'm really looking forward to this. I recognize a bunch of them from Japanese mythology, and there's a few that I don't have the slightest clue where they come from, so I'm just really excited right here, because it's Red, she's doing a good job, it's myths, it's mythology. Yeah, this is my stuff. I'm completely biased in the favor, so if you haven't already, there's a link below to the original videos. Hit them up. Let's get started.
Anyone familiar with popular culture from the past decade or two will tell you that Japan is weird. I mean, just look at anime. What with their beach episodes and festival episodes and 5 minutes of yelling and the power of friendship and all that nonsense.
See, that's completely unrelated. There's only 5 minutes of Dragon Ball Z? That's completely ridiculous. It's way more than just 5 minutes of yelling. It is sometimes the entire damn episode.
It's easy to look at the prevailing Japanese tropes and call them bizarre. But to put this in perspective, I'd like to point out that there is a stock episode in Western animation in which several characters are shrunk down and go on an adventure inside another character's body. But Red, you might say, that's different.
You know what? I was not expecting that to be Reboot. 1, nice. 2, I thought that was going to be Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Playing against type, nice.
That's a combination of elements from Fantastic Voyage and Jonah and the Whale. That's not weird.
Jonah and the... Oh yeah, I forgot it literally involved him going inside a whale. Considering the VTubers available at the moment, that is probably a very weird sentence to say in context.
It's just a reference. Yeah. Crazy how that works. It's almost like it's much easier to see why certain tropes appear when you have something to connect them to. For instance, let's talk about a trope that we no longer question, the magic kid from somewhere else trope. It may seem ubiquitous and now universal now, but in its oldest form, this trope is Japanese in origin.
Really?
Plenty of cultures have legends about children conceived by magic or born with odd characteristics, but the story where a child just appears, that is grounded solidly in 2 Japanese myths, Momotarō and...
Really? Because I always thought that the entire kid appearing out of nowhere was just the stork. But that was probably a much newer conception. This is probably significantly older then. How did people explain it away at the time? Or did they even bother?
The Tale of Princess Kaguya. We'll get to those in a minute.
Don't know much
First,
about Kaguya.
I'll tell you why we Westerners don't question this trope anymore, and I'll do it
It's
in
very
one word.
common.
Superman.
Zeus did it.
That could be 2 words. Think of how weird his origin story is when looked at in isolation. An alien spacecraft crashes to Earth, and instead of an invasion or a monster, a baby comes out? Who thinks of something like that? He doesn't count. That's the Japan thing too. Shush. If Superman's story had never been told,
Oh yeah, they are basically the same thing. Let's pretend I realized that sooner than now. Oh wow, that's actually embarrassing.
Western media would have nothing to ground the super adoption trope into, and it's a weird one. Now, Superman is actually intended to be a Moses reference, but the parallel still stands. Without Superman, the magic baby appearing from nowhere trope would be as weird to us as the beach episode. But let's talk about one of the original babies from nowhere, Momotaro. The story of Momotaro starts off pretty simply. A childless old woman is washing her clothes in the stream when all of a sudden a huge peach floats by. She carts the thing back to her house where her husband prepares to cut it open, whereupon, lo and behold, the peach splits in half and a baby boy pops out. Yeah, kind of like that, but this time the spaceship was edible. Anyway,
So wait, if Superman's a reference to Moses, does that mean Goku was a direct reference to... Instead of a peach, it's the space warp? Yeah, he's probably a direct reference to Momotaro, even though he then becomes a reference to the Monkey King and Sun Wukong, because literally his name is Goku. Huh. Makes sense.
They name the kid Momotaro, which means Peach Boy, so Momotaro is raised by the old couple and grows up to be an unusually strong young man, which wouldn't be a particularly relevant trait if it weren't for the nearby island full of ogres that started marauding around stealing stuff. Momotaro decides his ideal...
Mom, look, like an unlikely hero. I'll go get the ancestral weapons. Boy, I sure love stealing from the innocent. Yeah. Yo, same. Okay. Oh, jeez.
course of action is to
It's
go
basically
pick him
just
up and take their
Perseus the
stuff, and his
Japanese,
parents
isn't
send
it?
him off on his merry way, geared up with a suit of armor and a bag full of kibidongo. So
It
as
really
he's heading
does
to the
feel that
island,
way.
he takes a moment to rest under a tree, whereupon an angry dog runs up to him
Puppy.
and threatens the young man, ordering him to just leave the kibidongo.
I don't want to hurt you. Put down the dumpling nice and slow. Ah, see, this is ridiculous. This is completely cat behavior. You know it. Don't deny it.
And walk away. I imagine that this must be commonplace in mythical Japan because Momotaro hardly bats an eyelid and instead pulls a "don't you know who I am" maneuver, and somehow the dog actually does know who he is and
Really?
immediately backs down. They share a kibidongo and the dog agrees to help him on his journey.
Oh my god, they even did the... I'm not sure which is more impressively strong, more impressively fluffy, because puppy. Which is more embarrassing here? Or just grown worthy? That accomplishment music? Or that I actually recognize this old RPG format of getting a new party member? Judging myself on this one.
Hey, That's another anime thing. So they continue islandward, whereupon they
Making
encounter
friends
a
who
monkey,
initially tried
no,
to
not that
assault
one,
you.
who has also apparently heard of Momotaro and wants to help. They continue islandward, whereupon they encounter a monkey. No.
This isn't China. Oh. Just randomly dropping in Wukong. Oh, wow. I just... cameos within their own series. Oh, this amuses me. Also, it does remind me that I'm absolutely desperate for the next episode. And it's just a few more months. Just a few more months. 3 more months. If it doesn't get delayed. People told me they did. I don't want to believe them because it's already so long. Yeah, I'm very much down bad for the next episode. Yeah.
No, not
That's
that
on
one,
me.
who has also apparently heard of Momotaro and wants to help. The dog gets all defensive and jealous, but Momotaro agrees, and he and the monkey share a kibidango, which is apparently how you make friends.
We can use someone else with thumbs. I mean, he's not wrong. They're very useful. They can do this. Truly, it's what makes humanity the master of all species. Also, just rampant, insatiable greed and opposable thumbs. Yeah, actually, never mind. It's still the thumbs. Yeah, no, it's the thumbs.
Friends in mythical Japan. I always thought it was beating each other up. So blah blah journey.
No, they got it right. It's beating each other up, but first is always food. Come on, let's be honest. Easiest way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Or his ribcage, depending on how you aim.
Blah blah, new location. Next up is a pheasant who the dog immediately attacks. Momotaro breaks up the fight, the pheasant joins the party, yada yada kibidango. But by now...
Okay, now they're at the entire fight dynamic. So they went with food and... Wow! Crumble my rib. Oh god, they're just going everywhere. I feel sorry for the guy. And sick and heat and thumbs.
Now Momotaro is getting pretty tired of his sidekicks fighting all the time and decides they need to learn a valuable lesson in the power of friendship. So he tells them the next time one of you starts a fight, I'm kicking you all out. So the sidekick squad calms down a little and they set sail for the island of the Oni. And because there is literally nothing else to do on a boat, they all get to know each other better. So by the time...
Oh, what did it say? Just gotta go back a bit. There we go. Who's up for a team building game? I'm up for chewing my own arm off. To be completely fair, if you're stuck on a boat and there's nothing to do, that is an actual possible option out of sheer boredom. I'm not projecting at all right now.
So by the time they arrive on the island, they're like a well-oiled teamwork machine. So the Oni live in a big scary stronghold, so when Momotaro, the dog, and the monkey try and find a way in from the ground, the pheasant flies in first, announces their presence, then starts taking on...
Wait, the pheasant announced their Oh, well, there goes the element of surprise. What did that say, though?
Momotaro, the dog, and the monkey try and find a way in from the ground, the pheasant flies in first...
Suck it, mammals! Okay, that's a good one.
First announces their presence.
Prepare to die. Tally-ho! Or cry out. Spare me. So literally, this is just the pheasant. Oh god, the monkey's eyes. This guy has seen some shit, man.
Then starts taking on the Oni single-handedly. And no, I have no idea how he pulled that off either. Momotaro, the monkey, and the dog sneak around to the back entrance and break in that way. So they fight the Oni and win, and when only the chief Oni...
Really? Because it seems like the pheasant did all the work. On the other hand, if you've ever fought a really pissed off bird... Yeah, no, it makes a lot more sense. Those things are scary, man. Just look at ducks. I rest my case.
Oni is left, the demon surrenders. So Momotaro and the animal sidekick crew rescue all the Oni's prisoners, take all their stuff, and somehow manage to sail everything back home without capsizing. They win glory and fame and stuff, as well as the retirement.
Hail to the heroes! Victory! Woo, they did it! We're the champions. Oh, they didn't have my friends after it. Is that a monkey? Just randomly, is that a monkey? That's the part that gets them. It really does feel like the Japanese myth of Perseus. I wonder which one came first and if there was any cross-cultural references at that point. I know China had a lot of trade routes, but I'm not sure how connected Japan was at this time, if it was at all. I really don't know. I'm actually very curious.
Fund to end all retirement funds, and that's pretty much the end of that. Well, that story was kind of boring. Not a whole lot happens, there's hardly any drama, and Momotaro just kind of wins. So how did he become so popular? Well, World War II. Don't follow? Check this out. Let Momotaro represent Japan as a whole. The animal sidekicks are the citizens, so the story stresses the importance of the citizens working together to back up the country and provide it with strength. But what's the Oni Island represent? I don't know how to tell you this, America, but... I mean, think about it. As those of you who've seen that awesome...
Yeah... That didn't go so well for them. So they were trying to build up strength and the idea of like, hey, we need to be in this together. Take out the demons who are just taking everything from everyone, ignoring exactly what this map here represents. And actually, technically, that is a problem in Japan where they don't actually teach it at all. So a lot of people don't understand what this map represents. Yeah. there's issues. But more importantly, I mean, I'm not sure why we need to be upset about that. Being compared to a bunch of ogres? Nice.
Awesomely hilarious History of Japan video, no. World War II was when Japan was at the height of its world-conquering ambition. America was...
Really? It's not that they have us as the Oni who are just sitting around in admittedly better shape than most Americans are. I'm saying really, because even then they did the loincloth American bikini bottom. I thought that was a recent thing in anime, but no, apparently this is a cultural trope in Japanese propaganda even. What is with everyone just having... I mean, don't get me wrong, the later art is much more appealing, but this is still just a thing they've done. I mean, they also did it for the Brits, but no one's paying attention to that.
Was a dangerous superpower in the game, but if they managed to take it over, fabulous wealth and power would be theirs. We all know that didn't work out too well, and I'm pretty sure our countries are bros now, but at the time, Momotarō was an ideal underdog to associate the country with, and his story perfectly mapped the ideal scenario Japan wanted to end the war with. What had just been a folktale was catapulted into culture-wide fame. So, like, even though our countries are bros now and we kind of try to pretend like we never tried to kill each other, this story we've adapted in so many ways is only popular because...
On the other hand, does America really pretend we haven't tried to kill each other? Because I think that's... I was going to make a reference to how America just kind of tries to befriend the people that they tried to kill prior. And to some extent, are we literally the failed shonen protagonists? I'm going to drop this line of thinking because it actually hurts my head.
Because of that one time we tried to kill each other. Hey, that's anime too.
Next up, we have Niobe. I have no idea where this myth is from. I don't recognize the name, and could be African, could be Middle Eastern, could be Japanese or Chinese for all I know. I don't know, and I'm actually really curious because of that.
When will these people learn not to piss off the gods?
Never.
Okay, the story of Niobe is very short, and like most Greek tragedies, is an essay on the folly of hubris. Really? But for context, we're going to need the story of Leto and her twin children, Artemis and Apollo. Yeah, you already know who they are, but their mom is more important in this story, so bear with me. So way back when, the goddess Leto had a fling with Zeus and got pregnant. Hera obviously objected, but because she couldn't do her normal solution and kill Leto, she instead decided to make her life really hard. So she put out some rules. Leto could totally give birth, she just couldn't do it on the mainland, on an island, or anywhere under the sun. And apparently Olympus counted too? Whatever. So Leto found this tiny barren rock called Delos, which wasn't the mainland and didn't count as an island, and set up to give birth. Some versions also say that Hera kidnapped Alethea, the goddess of childbirth, to keep Leto from having her kids, but any mother will tell you that nothing stops the baby when it wants to get out, so...
Could have sworn that'd work. This is already one of the more dickish things Hera did. Not the most. I still think Zeus is... Hercules is up there in the highest, but this is close.
Leto had her children anyway. First Artemis, and then 9 days later, Apollo. So now that we've got some backstory...
Fraternal twins it is. I wonder if 9 days is a reference to a just really fast gestation cycle. Instead of 9 months, 9 days. Not gonna think about it too hard.
Okay, let's talk about Niobe. So Niobe, Queen of Thebes, has a loving husband, Amphion, and 14 children, 7 sons and 7 daughters. Life 14! Is pretty sweet. Now Leto has a temple in Thebes, and she's requested that the women of Thebes pay her some respect via incense. Pretty much standard godly fare. Well, Niobe shows up to do her thing, and apparently decides that the best way to worship Leto is to try and...
There's no way for this plan to... Oh no, what happened?
One-up her. So Niobe claims that, hey, she managed to have 14 kids while Leto only had 2, so who's the real goddess? Well, evidently Leto, as the minute she hears that particular gem, she calls up the twins and asks him to show Niobe who's boss.
Hey kids, need you to demonstrate quality over quantity. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be a thing.
So Artemis and Apollo gear up and start sniping.
And they literally just take out all the kids. Why is he smiling? Like, this one hurt? Yeah. Pain. Falling over. Dead. He's getting off on it.
Sniping Niobe's kids, killing all of them. Then her husband kills himself. Sucks to be you, Niobe. Sounds like your mouth was writing checks your nuclear family couldn't cash. Then she turns into a rock. The end. Okay,
so I get why I never heard of the previous one. There's almost nothing to it other than, hey, don't be an asshole to people who have direct power over you, such as literally shooting all your kids with impunity. Yeah, funny how that works. Seriously, I'd say it's a silly trope in Greek myth that gets overplayed, but let's be completely honest. We all know people who do this in real life. I'm just giving you a second to think about the exact person you know you're thinking about, Joe. If you're watching, Joe, you know I'm meaning you. Moving on. Kusanagi no Tsurugi. Ooh, this one I do know a bit about, if only because it's been referenced in so many anime. Yeah, my geek card is flying here. Oddly enough, though, I have no idea how much of that is just random anime doing their own thing or the original myth. So what I know is probably very wrong.
What's more anime classic than a magic sword? Nothing. And much like Excalibur in Western...
Wait, what was that? How many anime swords did they just pull out?
What's more anime classic than a magic sword?
Okay, Berserk, Inuyasha, Princess Utena, which I still need to get around to watching. Kill la Kill, nice. Bleach. Oh, I think that's Krona from Soul Eater and Blue Devil. I know of this one. I don't know what it's called. It's been a while. I don't think I ever got around to that one. Guts and Kill la Kill though, classic.
Nothing. And much like Excalibur in Western mythology, Japan has its own fancy legendary blade that currently goes by the awesomely innocuous name of Grasscutter. It's one of the three royal regalias of Japan, but it's definitely got the most complicated past.
Wait, they actually have it?
Let's take a minute to talk about it. So Grasscutter's story begins with the thunder god Susanoo no
Mikoto,
who has recently been banished from heaven thanks to being a little overenthusiastic in his trolling of his sister Amaterasu. So while he's wandering the earth, he finds a grieving couple who tell him that 7 of their 8 daughters have been eaten by a giant 8-headed snake, the Orochi. So Susan offers to kill the Susan. God.
Wait, it's actually just named Susan? That also 7 of 8 daughters for an 8-headed snake. Oh, why does that feel like there's 1 daughter per head? My only child left.
Have been eaten by a giant 8-headed snake, the Orochi. So Susan offers to...
I shall slay the beast. Oh, brave sir. Yay. Susan.
Kill the Susan. God damn it. So Susanoo offers to...
Oh, she just made a mistake and I left it in. I thought it was actually named Susan for a second. It's like... Nickname? Fake name? Okay, no, it's just them having a fun time with the name fuck up. I will forever remember this person as Susan.
Kill the snake in exchange for their last remaining daughter, which they're okay with. So Susanoo turns the daughter into a comb for temporary safekeeping and sets off to beat up the snake.
What? I'm sorry, what? I shall slay this beast, oh brave sir.
Which they're okay with. So Susanoo turns the daughter into...
Please don't get hit on the head. This seems safe. He gets hit on the head, doesn't he?
A comb for temporary safekeeping and sets off to beat up the snake. So he sets up a trap for the snake, 8 barrels of sake specifically. The snake shows up, spots the rice wine, and takes the opportunity to get mad drunk. And when all 8 of its heads pass out, Susanoo leaps out of hiding and cuts off its heads.
Ironically, there is actual proof for this plan not being stupid because the British actually used this against the Irish. Yeah, in the most successful Irish rebellion ever, is what I was told when I was there, and this is actually how an Irish professor described it at the time. Yeah. They lost, specifically the British lost a cart of high-grade booze completely by accident. It was there and then they lost it. He can't be helped. And then the next morning they were all so pissed drunk that nobody noticed when the British literally walked up the hill. Oh, I think at this time it still would have just been the English, not the British. I could be wrong. And that was the end of it. Yeah, so this entire plan, history has proven this is a very good plan and it does work.
Then, while he's cutting the snake up into manageable pieces, his sword hits something hard in the snake's tail, and when he investigates, he finds another sword embedded in it. This sword is named Ama-no-Muro Kumo no Tsurugi, or Sword of the Gathering Clouds of Heaven, which is a pretty sweet name appropriate for a pretty sweet sword. Susanoo then gives the sword to Amaterasu as an apology.
Sorry I threw a horse at you, friends. He threw a horse? Why didn't you start with that, Red? That actually sounds amazing. What?
Now, the cool thing about Amaterasu, well, one of many cool things, is that supposedly the emperors of Japan can trace their lineage all the way back to her. So Amaterasu has a grandson, Ninigi no Mikoto, who she sends down to rule Japan.
Hey, I need you to rule the reed plains. Grass-cutting sword, reed plains. Ah, there's probably something in there. Also, she doesn't look like a giant Mekon. That's probably unrelated, though.
Of his status, she gives him 3 gifts, each heavily symbolic. A mirror, which represents purity, a jewel representing benevolence, and, you guessed it, the sword Ama-no-Muro Kumo no Tsurugi, which in this case is playing the role of courage. Ninigi's great-grandson Jimmu then became the first official emperor of Japan, and the regalias were passed down from generation to generation, each belonging to the reigning emperor at any given time.
Admittedly, the fact that they've just been around long enough makes them incredibly interesting relics, even if you take out the religious significance, apparently. I mean, old things are cool as far as I'm concerned, so that's just really neat. Huh. Also, I hope he does... Actually, I hope Red does an entire thing about just the various gods. They're probably in here somewhere, because this is so much mythology I want more details on. We're just getting the sword's history, though, which... It's kind of weird that it started inside the snake. Did the snake eat it? Did it get made? Does the snake have a forge inside of its bowels? Yeah, I'm going to ignore that entire last thought because that is absolutely disgusting, and I might actually have someone in the comments saying, yeah, technically that's exactly what happened. Please don't do that. There are things I don't want to read, and that's probably one of them. Heard of shitting out a sword, but dear God, not literally, man.
Now, the next major event in the sword's history is when it falls into the hands of Prince Yamato, the clever but overconfident son of Emperor Keiko. Now, Yamato had previously been exiled due to some fratricidal...
No murdering your older brother. Now you tell me? Oh God, just a little infratricide.
Shenanigans, but his aunt, the High Priestess of Amaterasu, takes pity on the kid for his newfound dangerous situation and loans him the sacred sword in the hopes that it'll help him survive. This comes in handy later when a local warlord invites Prince Yamato on a friendly hunting expedition and then takes the opportunity to set the open field on fire, hoping to kill Yamato in what looks like an accident. Yamato sees he's...
But he's on a horse. Wouldn't he just be able to outrun the fire? Oh, they probably spread it around so it wouldn't be able to escape, yeah. And tall brush is a lot of flammable stuff.
Trapped by the fire and starts cutting the grass around him to remove the fuel. And that's when he finds out the sword can control the wind. So using his trusty fire starters and his new...
We've had this sword for centuries and nobody bothered to swing it before. Honestly, that is completely legitimate. How often do you see the guy in charge actually fight? Even in Japanese mythology, it wasn't that common, was it? Admittedly, I know a lot of warlords actually were fighters. But at the same time, how many of them were actually fighters and, you know, it's mythology. Probably some. I'm actually very curious to see how that would actually turn out.
Newly discovered magic sword, Prince Yamato blows fire back at the would-be assassins, assassinating them instead.
Oh, I recognize
this is when
that
the
too.
sword gets its name, Grasscutter. The last important bit of Grasscutter's story is when Prince Yamato...
Keep that safe from me, will ya? Wait, what? Also, was that? Yeah, that was the Overwatch theme.
Them instead. This is when the sword gets its name,
awesome.
Grasscutter. The last important bit of Grasscutter's story is when Prince Yamato fails to take it with him when he goes to fight a giant monster and is predictably killed. Grasscutter...
Wait, did he die literally because he didn't take the magic sword with him? Oh, who could have predicted this? Sigh. Yeah. Who'd have thought not having a magic sword would mean you don't have a magic all-powerful sword, apparently.
Grasscutter is then moved to the Atsuta Shrine for safekeeping, where it supposedly remains to this day. And it's not a katana. Just want to stress that. Katanas only started showing up around 1100 AD. Grasscutter was already a thing when the first emperor took...
Oh, this is actually fascinating to me. So we got the modern times, Middle Edo, Momoyama period, later Marachi, Middle Kurikama, and Ancient Sword. Huh. At various times, the bend has been slightly different, but the only time it was ever straight is the oldest one before 980 AD. Or CE. Dude. Ironically, that and this one are, and the final one are probably the straightest of the blades, with this one having the most tapered. Sorry. Swordsmithing is like not something I'm really good on, but I geek out over this.
Power nearly 2,000 years earlier. Not every Japanese sword is a katana. God damn it, anime. So yeah.
And next up we have Kaguya. I know of Kaguya just because of, admittedly again, anime, so my references are probably all wrong. That said, I'm very curious to see how this goes because I don't know much about the actual mythology on this one, just that it's very heavily used and stylized to the point of probably being completely different.
You know, I talk a lot about how modern entertainment picks up a lot of its more dramatic story elements from very old sources. It can be pretty fun to look at some of our modern media and...
She's the Man, 12th Night. Oh! See, here's the thing. I've never actually seen She's the Man. I know 12th Night. I didn't realize this was based on that. Mahabharata is Oren Host Club? Really? And Inuyasha's just Journey to the West. I mean... You can make Journey to West most things, not just Inuyasha. I mean, DBZ would be an easier one. Or, you know, the actual Journey to the West anime, or there's a lot. Monkey Kid, I've been told, is also that. This is a surprise one to me.
And realize they're thinly veiled retellings of really old stuff. Now, the interesting thing about anime, in contrast to Western media, is that Western stuff tends to draw inspiration from old texts, while anime will often just rip stuff wholesale and repack...
See? I talked about, yeah. The Hobbit and Beowulf. Wait, The Hobbit is a retelling of Beowulf? The Hobbit? You know, if you take out all the fighting, at least on Bilbo Baggins' part, yeah, I can kind of see it.
Package it in a shiny modern skin with romance and explosions. Anyone who watched Naruto will be the first to notice how often big names from Japanese mythology will get thrown around, but it's far from the only show to do so. Also, it's hardly myth-accurate in most cases. Looking at you, Orochimaru. If you don't have a legendary sword in your butt, don't even talk to me. In fact,
Are we sure he doesn't? He seems like the kind of person who might have that kink.
Main character in this myth has shown up in quite a few places in one form or another. This is the tale of Princess Kaguya. Now, there was a movie made of this quite recently, but the gist of the myth is rather simpler than what was in there. So much like Momotarō, Princess Kaguya starts her life as a magic baby appearing out of a local piece of plant life. In this case, a bamboo stalk cut by an old childless bamboo cutter called Taketori no Okina. He takes the baby home to his wife, and together they raise her as their own. Now, this would be difficult.
Wait, what did they say?
Called Taketori no Okina. He takes the...
we know how to deal with babies, right? Dude, nobody does.
Baby home to his wife, and together they raise her as their own. Now, this would be difficult on a bamboo cutter's salary, but from that point forward, whenever Taketori no Okina cut a stalk of bamboo, he'd find a gold nugget inside. Rather than question this, he took the opportunity...
Are you serious? Darling, the bamboo's gone crazy. How do you keep finding all this stuff? Don't know. Stop cutting the bamboo. Or start decorating your house with it, man.
To get filthy rich and provide for his beautiful daughter and also his wife. Now, obviously, Kaguya grew up to be gorgeous because this is a legend and nobody ever peaks in high school. So soon enough, she finds herself beset.
Princess Kaguya over here. I love you. And I can't read that because it's actually Japanese. Marry me, please. And she grew up to be beautiful because no one peaks in high school. The funny part is, I thought that was a joke, and then I met a few people. I was like, oh, wow. I'm in my 30s. I have classmates who I've seen, and I'm like, oh, dear God, you're my age. I know for a fact they're younger than me. And it looks like, well, I guess the easiest way to put it is meth is a hell of a drug.
By suitors, 5 of them actually high enough in status to be somewhere in her league. However, Kaguya don't want to be tied down.
Too cool for this. Oh my God, what? They're each color-coded, I just realized that.
Suitors, 5 of them actually high enough in status to be somewhere in her league. However,
please, Princess Ra. Choose me, I'm the handsomest. No, me. I just realized this is just Japanese Helen of Troy. Or Helen of Troy, it's just Kaguya, isn't it? Did they come to some agreement due to one of them being really smart? Or do they all just start a war now?
Kaguya don't want to be tied down, so she gives the 5 princes impossible tasks. The first one she sends to get the Buddha's stone begging bowl. The second is sent to get a jeweled tree from Horai Island, which notably doesn't exist and is supposed to be full of ghosts. The third she sends to get the robe of the fire rat.
Just dropping an Inuyasha in there. Oh my God.
The fourth is sent to get a jewel from the neck of a dragon, and the fifth she sends to get a cowrie shell born from swallows, whatever that means. So princes 1 through 3 come back with expensive forgeries, number 4 nopes out of there when he runs into a storm, and 5 manages to get himself killed in the attempt, so Kaguya is mercifully free to continue.
How did it go? Still tragically single. Honestly, number 4 is a smart one. He got the F out.
You live in La Vida Soltera. Soon enough, the Emperor himself catches wind of Kaguya's hotness and falls in love with her, but Kaguya rejects him, saying,
does that line usually work? I don't know. To be fair, usually it's not the Emperor asking. Also, I love how smug she looks. Sorry, when Red draws smug characters, it's literally my favorite parts of her art.
She's not from his country and therefore shouldn't marry him. They stay friends, though. But if you...
Wait, what? Which country?
Mercifully free to continue living La Vida Soltera. Soon enough, the Emperor himself catches wind of Kaguya's hotness and falls in love with her, but Kaguya...
Okay, the Emperor. I was assuming the Japanese Emperor, but apparently that would be the Chinese Emperor then? Because she's not from that country? At the time period, who would have been the Chinese Emperor? I actually have no idea what time period this myth is from. But that could actually be a really neat little plot twist if it actually referenced anything in history that was then absolutely bastardized to make this myth. Sorry, this is one of those things where it's kind of like King Arthur. You're like, okay, how much of this myth is just a story that's stupid, and how much of it is a bastardization of real facts that people retold for literally thousands of years to the point where it has absolutely no basis in reality? And for all I know, it could be less than 1,000, it could be more than 1,000. I don't know when this myth is from, and that would actually be really fascinating to find out.
Rejects him, saying she's not from his country and therefore shouldn't marry him. They stay...
Unless that was just her saying it for the sake of saying it, so she's not actually talking to the Japanese one, or she is talking to the Japanese one, not the Chinese one, which would also make more sense. Come by for tea sometime.
Friends, though. But if you were confused by that not a citizen thing, the truth comes out the following summer. You see, Kaguya is actually from the moon. Wow, swerve. So Kaguya...
And that's probably why Naruto did Kaguya as the final villain. I'm annoyed because that actually makes that stupid plot twist make a little more sense. And I hate it. Yeah, but this has been great, but I'm out of time.
Kaguya sadly tells her parents that her time on Earth is coming to an end and she has to return to the moon, like, soon. Her bestie,
From
the
a
Emperor, doesn't want to see her
bamboo
go, so he stations guards around her home in an effort to keep her safe. But the moon don't play by the Emperor's rules, so when her entourage comes down to take her away, they temporarily blind all the guards to keep him from interfering. Kaguya writes a goodbye letter to the Emperor and attaches
Just
a
a
gift in the form
sec.
of the elixir of life. Pretty sweet. Then she puts on a magic cloak made of feathers, which makes her forget all of her love for humanity, and then she goes back to the moon. So the Emperor's
Feathers made you... Okay, never mind. Bird, that makes sense. The entire forgetting love for humanity is weird, considering she was already going, it seems. But that's probably just more mythology I haven't really got the associations for yet.
heartbroken and refuses the elixir, reasoning that an eternal life is worth nothing if Kaguya is not in it. He has the elixir burned on the peak of the highest mountain in the area, giving the mountain its name, Fuji, for immortality. So that's the story of how a magic baby fell out of a bamboo.
Really? They named it for just saying negation of immortality? That's actually probably the most fascinating twist right there. That someone just flat out was given an elixir. I mean, the entire story of Gilgamesh is him going on a journey to get that elixir after being mind-fucked by Enkidu's death, and then wasting away and finding out who he really is, and admittedly becoming a much better person in the effort to get an elixir of immortality, to get immortality itself. And then finally the snake gets and they shut the skin and all that stuff, but him failing to get it. Most of the stories about immortality are failing to get it. And here he's like, no, I'm good. Death is fine. And they just, This is actually just fascinating because it kind of reverses a trope that probably wasn't even a trope at this point. Well, actually, it probably was. I just don't know the time period. It might have been a trope for all I know. I can't believe I'm asking this, but I really wish I knew the date, which is, for me, weird because I don't do numbers. I don't do dates, places, times. It's a problem because I have no idea where I'm going at anywhere at any time. It's an issue. My wife really gets annoyed about it. But I kind of want that here because I want to know comparatively what other myths were common around this area. How would they interact? Is this something that they talk about in their diatribes? Because I want this level of obsessive detail. Oh God, I want literary analysis. Wow, I have literally just caused myself physical pain by that realization. I was an English major. I did that. I hated it, and now I want it, and this does not feel good. Oh, I'm judging myself on this one.
Stock got at least one nobleman killed and inspired Sailor Moon. The end.
And that was just a whole slew of Japanese myths and one really short Greek, which admittedly, yeah, Greek myth. I'm actually cool that they covered it because I liked knowing more about it. And the sheer audacity is like, hey, you didn't have enough kids, followed by, oh, fix that. Makes sense. All of the rest of this, I want more context. I know I'm still kind of wrapping my head around the fact that I want the literary analysis of this, specifically outside of context, to see what was around, what other myths were prevalent, what kind of inspirations were they pull from this, how long was this just a written story versus prior to that, was it a oral story where these myths that came down, how much transformation happened in that time period? Or was this something that was based off real events that just went weird and got so crazily distorted through a game of telephone that they became this instead? I don't know, and I want that information. I don't know where to find this. I'm not going to Wikipedia because I know for a fact I would like to sleep tonight. If I start that, I will wiki walk for the next 24 hours, and I would like to not do that because sleep is apparently important. You need some of it within a 24-hour period, and I already did that last night, so I can't do it again. Yeah, that's on me. More importantly, if anyone happens to know those answers, let me know so I don't have to go look it up and then lose all sense of time again this week. Yeah. But more importantly, again, because I keep getting distracted by wanting to get more information, you guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original videos. Hit them up, and I'll see you guys in the next one. We go into the Aztec stuff because that's going to be freaking cool, man. And yeah, I'll see you then. Adios.